Hey everybody, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night again, wherever you are in the world. Good to have you here. It is December 30 and we're going to have the last next level lecture of this year, year 2020. And it will take about 30 minutes. My name is Hans, the Storyteller Nordsiek, and I'll be your host on this lecture. Good to see you all here. And as you see, now I got a very good comment from viewers, and based upon their comments I decided to change the environment. So now you see here I'm in a different environment than you're used to. Also the atmosphere of my presentation, my lecture, will be a little bit more different. It's more reflective than you are maybe used to. So what you see here, this is a beautiful heater. And I got it installed a number of years ago. It's made from special stone from Finland, and the whole heater is weighing about 6,000 pounds, or about 2,500 kilos, and it's a very comfortable kind of water, kind of heat, of warmth, and it's a natural kind of heat. If I burn it once a day, one bucket of wood, and it almost heats the whole house, and it is like you feel welcome. We call it the big friend of the house. So good to have you all here. Once more, my name is Hans, the Storyteller Nordsiek. Last week we had a lecture about the passage of the year, about what is happening, what is the exact best moment to celebrate New Year, and we found out by the question, well, what's the best day to celebrate your life? Is your birthday. It's the new light in the world, and the new light in the world is riding in last week, December 21. So December 21 would be a far more appropriate date to celebrate the new year than December 31. Anyway, history decided tomorrow is the last day in the year of 2020. Today we're going to talk about a special subject that is called coincidence. Before we start to talk about coincidence, what it is, where it comes from, and we may find surprising things about coincidence that may affect your life in a positive way, as well as in your family environment, as well as in your business environment. Let me first give you a little bit more introduction. I'm 61 years old. I'm from the Netherlands. I have a career as an aviation structures engineer. I studied aviation, and I have a career as an airline pilot. I was a captain on big Boeings, an instructor on the big Boeings, and I'm now a coach. I'm a business coach. I'm a brand creator, brand ambassador, and I'm also a storyteller, a theater maker, and an entertainer for kids worldwide. So I traveled all over the world. I met a lot of people. I heard a lot of stories. I was inside a lot of different cultures, and from this perspective I give my lectures. This one will take about 25 minutes. And before we continue further, I always ask you to take the blue or the red pill. Asking you to take the red pill means that if there's a question coming up during the lecture about what I tell, then the question should be about better understanding. This lecture is not about who's having the best knowledge, who is better. This is not a competition. This is not arguing about things. This is just, I hope you like to hear what I say you. And if it's not for you, that could happen. That's okay. That's fine. So taking the red pill is just hear what I tell, and if there's any question, try. It's for a better understanding. The question should be a warning about what I tell you. I give always this warning, is that what I tell you may seem fantasy, may seem totally out of this world, maybe getting out of your thumb, sucking out of your thumb, some sort of far-fetched fantasy that I talk about. And in fact, it's not. I'm busy with these things in my way for about 30 years now. And so before you say, Hans, this is not true, well, think about it one more time. And again, there is no competition here. This lecture is everybody who likes to somehow Ask primary questions about life. I have the 3 Re's for you. It's rediscovering, redesigning, and reinventing life. If everything is perfect around you, this may not be the lecture for you. If you do have questions that say, well, we may do things better, family-wise and also business-wise, this may be the lecture for you. So I'm going to steal about 25 minutes. You will learn what you will learn is to incorporate a new type of head scratch in your life, and ask questions on things that may seem very obvious and maybe they're not that obvious. Also in connection, that's always my theme. It should be practical, be used in your life. So let us start with coincidence. Now we all have this in our life, that two things happen at the same time, and we said, well, how what a coincidence. I meet this person, I'm walking on the street, I thought about this person an hour ago, I haven't seen him for 10 years, and now I meet him. Or something else. And the definition of coincidence is exactly that. We would say the definition is something happening without apparent reason, while coincidence is a striking occurrence happening without apparent reason. And initially we may throw it away, say, well, whatever. What is the value? What's the worth of it? Just take it for granted. Well, there's a little bit more to say about that, and that's what I will do the next 5 minutes. A few months ago, I flew in an old biplane. To give you an example about coincidence, I flew in an old biplane from a friend of mine over Europe, over Holland, the Netherlands. I talk from the Netherlands. And we flew over a fortress in the northeastern part of my country. The fortress is called Bretagne or Boutange. It's from in the year 1503, made by the Dutch people at that time to fight the Spanish conquerors. I heard about it, and I've never thought about it until I flew over it for some reason. And now the last weeks, somehow, coincidence, I get more and more reports and more videos about this special fortress. So that's what I call coincidence. Now, coincidence, you can compare it to if you have an old diesel engine, static, or in your car, or in your truck, or in your train, and it's cold. And the old diesel starter, the old diesel engine, you need to glow it before you can rotate it, turn it, and then it starts. And it may start and every now and then finally it starts to run. What is meant by the original designer of life, let's call it nature, is that, and this is connected with coincidence. Sometimes we start and we have this coincidence. Well, original nature meant us to be continuously 24 hours a day in this type of coincidence. Yes, that sounds far-fetched, and it's true. If you study the old cultures, which I did, if you study mythology, which I did, then you see that being in the world of coincidence is we are meant to be there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And now we are this old diesel that sometimes we have it once a day or once every 2 weeks, and sometimes it's gone. We will investigate why don't we have it all the time. There are reasons for that. And why should we have it all the time? Well, having it all the time is a result or is connected with who you are, who you're in essence are, and how we are meant by nature. The mythology says if you're out of your alignment with the universe, then you are this old diesel engine that sometimes it starts and sometimes it doesn't start at all. And the magic of life in 2020, at least for me, is to find the ways to realign with the universe in order to gain that we will be in the world of coincidence 24 hours a day. The business people ask me then, hey Hans, what's the profit? What's in it for me? Well, what's in it for you? If you are in line with who you are, if you're in tune with who you really are, you will have better products, you will have better services, you will have better inventions, you will have better ideas, and you will have better investments. So that's why. And for family people, I always say, well, you will be more aligned with who you are, you will be happier, you will have more time for the things that you like. So this is the giveaway from the story I tell. I told it before, it's a big story. It's a huge story, and we are just seeing the top of the iceberg sticking above the water level. So we talked about all this one. Now talk about something else. We talk about Mr. Rupert Sheldrake. Rupert Sheldrake, who is he? Well, he's a gentleman from the UK. He's in his 70s now. He's a scholar, he's a scientist, man. He's a biologist, he's an author, and he has researched psychology. And number one, he has written a book, and the book is called Morphic Resonance. Morphic Resonance. His theory, and his theory is more than a theory because he proved it, is the following. I give you two examples that happened the last 80 years in history that you would say, well, how can it? Is this what happened? Second World War. And these two stories I tell you now really happened. Before the Second World War, the milk was delivered to the houses in UK by the doorstep. The milk by the milkman, and there was a bottle with a metal cover on it, and that were put next to the door, outside. And what happened, we know from the 1930s, that some birds knew how to open the cap on the milk and drink from the milk. And somehow, at that time, we found out that before the whole population of this special bird knew it, it took 3 years. Okay. And then what happened in the Second World War? So the whole population knew it, how to open the milk. And this had truly happened in the 1930s. Now in the 1940s, somehow this wasn't done, putting the milk bottles next to the doors. So 5-6 years there was no milk, and the generation next to the door, and the generation of the birds that knew how to open the cans, they died. Because these birds have a lifespan of only 3-4 years. So in 1946, when they start to redo this, with the milk bottles next to the door, the new generation that wasn't aware of what their grandfathers did, started to reinvent how to open the milk bottles with removing the can, removing the cap of the milk bottle. And then it showed that the whole population could do this within 1 year. Their grandparents did it in 3 years, and now they could do this in 1 year. Well, it's strange. Well, there is an explanation for that. Another thing is that in the 1960s and 70s, people studied, and Rupert Sheldrake studied, how we learned to do the water surfing on a board surfing on water. And they found out that if somebody was inventing a new trick with surfing on a waterboard in Australia, and it took this person 6 weeks to find out this trick. If somebody else in California, beautiful city, Los Angeles, and the beaches of Los Angeles, somebody else without contacting the guy or the girl in Australia would do the same trick, they would learn to do that within 2 weeks. So the conclusion, and this is where the book of Mr. Rupert Sheldrake is all about, that somehow we can tap worldwide, globally, and this sounds far-fetched, I realize that, we can tap from somebody else's experience without having any contact with that person at the other side of the world, without even knowing about that person, without even knowing that that person did it before. And Rupert Sheldrake wrote a book about it. There are many examples about it. So you can say there is a scientific proof that if you do something in your life for the very first time, something that has never been done in mankind, and you do it for the very first time, That person in Reykjavik or in Sao Paulo or in Tokyo will do the same thing after you've done it. They will learn from you without knowing you. They will tap from your experience. This is more than fantasy. This has been proven many times by Rupert Sheldrake. And also the old cultures and the old mythology talks about this phenomenon. That whatever we do in life, we give it to the universe, we give it to the internet of the universe, we give it to the big library of the universe. How that works, we don't know exactly. And there is an old, the old concept, the name that has this concept, it's called the Akashic Records. And that's also a very old concept, also investigated and used by the Egyptians, by the Incas, by the Mayas, by the Aboriginals, by many old cultures that use this and say it's the Akashic Records. Look it up at Google. And Akashic Record says the same. Whatever you do in your life, you can put it in your own computer or on your iPhone, it has already been recorded in the big internet system of the universe. Think about it like this. It's the huge, it's a mainframe cloud in the universe that records everything we do in such a way that's not a dead library. It's a useful living library. You can give to it without knowing it, and you can tap from it. Again, I understand that you would say, Hans, I don't believe it. Don't believe me. I would say, well, start reading the books of Rupert Sheldrake or studying the Akashic Records. Now, this has been proven many times. So, in perspective of people, I am a coach. I coach people to find their hero's path, to find the journey to find their hero's journey. And I get people that are very depressed. And they say, well, what does it matter what I do to the world? Nobody is watching me. Nobody is seeing me. Now, what does it matter what I do? Well, I tell them this story. Well, everything that you do is relevant. And it's being seen by the universe. It's being recorded. Like all the universe, all the old mythological stories tell us this. And also all the old cultures tell us this. So that is normally a big motivational boost for people that, although we on the world doesn't seem that it's being recorded, it's being used. So you do contribute to the big thing that we call life, to the big universe, to the big library of life. So you do contribute in any way you can. Another example. If you are now in North America, near Chicago, or in Canada, or somewhere in the Alps in Europe, and there's like 2 feet of snow, virgin snow, that has snowed the whole night, and you step out of your door, and you see the beautiful white snow, and you put on your snow boots, and you start walking. Is it hard or is it easy? Well, it certainly is beautiful to walk in the snow. And the first steps you set in the snow, lifting your other foot, lifting your next foot, and stepping forward. You're enjoying it, and it's tiring. It's tiring. And you walk for about a mile. You can take a rest. Now your wife or your children come out of the house. Hey, I want to follow you. What is the smartest thing for them to do to get to you? Yes, to step in the footstep that you just made. If they would make their own footsteps in the snow, it will be tiring. It will be your unique path. It will be a unique path of the hero. It will be a unique journey of the hero. If you step in the same steps, the people that leave your house and go to you in the same step that you did, number 1, 2, following you, will be easier. What do you think about number 3? Your children, your grandchildren, following in the same steps. More easy. So this analogy I use to illustrate and put that in a very big perspective. So what you do in your life, take the snow boots walk as a metaphor and put it to use in all your aspects of your life. If you do something unique, it's like walking in the big snow things. Somebody else in New Zealand will follow you without even having known you. It will be easier. So this is the analogy between stepping in the snow and somebody following you, giving it to the universe, to the Akashic records, and somebody else following you. It could be learning to fly an airplane. It could be making a new invention. It could be making how to use your iPhone. It could be anything. It's all being recorded. The next subject before we come to the conclusion is rituals. The Western culture. I'm from Europe, and we in the Western culture, we don't have a lot of rituals to celebrate things, and we used to have a lot more rituals. And some rituals we have is celebrating your birthday or Christmas, and celebrating New Year's Eve next tomorrow. And what is the essential or the importance of a ritual? Well, the ritual, it's all about repetition. If you go to South America, if you go to Africa, if you go to the Aboriginals in Australia, if you go to the Far East, you will find population that have far more rituals they use for initiation, for instance. And the power of the ritual is the repetition. And some rituals are being done already for thousands of years by mankind, somewhere in the world. And if you step in the snow, if you do a ritual that has been done for thousands of years, if you take the steps in the snow and thousands of people before you have stepped already in the snow, you will be congruent with all those people before you that stepped into the snow. You will be congruent with all the people before you that did this ritual. And you do two things. You tap from their experience, from their gift to the world. That's number one of the ritual. And number two, you give your contribution. And that is why rituals are so important to do. Because you connect history with present, with the future. And this all has to do with coincidence. Like we said in the beginning, is that the universe somehow wants us to be in harmony, that we have coincidence 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And we don't have that. And that is that's related to the fact that we are somehow, by things that happened in our modern history, that we are out of tune. And if you're out of tune, if you're out of alignment, you start to make war. Or giving a very current subject, we think that a virus that is in the universe is our enemy and we need to kill it. And we know that if you kill one virus, then the next virus will stand up. So there's no end to. So this is the misconception. So I give you one more example, and then we go to the conclusion of today's lecture. Pyramids, we talked about it before. Pyramids, Egypt, and the Sphinx. I give you the riddle of the Sphinx. There's once upon a time story about the Sphinx. And the Sphinx, before the Sphinx would open the door to a new aspect of your life, and the Sphinx could help you with that. It's a very ancient story. Then the Sphinx, everybody that would come to the Sphinx before the doors will open, the Sphinx will give you a riddle. The Sphinx would say, hey, before you're allowed to pass and go into the new gate, through the gate, go into the new life, go towards your next transformational level, I want you to answer and to solve the riddle. And it gives you the riddle. And the riddle is as follows. What in the morning walks on 4 legs, in the afternoon on 2 legs, and in the evening on 3 legs? What creature is doing that? And the answer is twofold. So in the morning, what walks on 4 legs, in the afternoon on 2 legs and in the evening on 3 legs. Well, people thinking, well, I give you the answer, is that is mankind, human, we, you and I, we all. Because in the morning of our lives, we are a baby, we crawl with feet and hands on the floor. When we're in the afternoon, we're grown up, we walk on 2 legs. And in the evening of our life, in the winter of our life, we walk with a stalk, with a stick, and we have 3 legs to walk on. So the answer to the riddle of the Sphinx is mankind. And that's nice. And then I said there's a twofold explanation to that. The metaphorical and the big answer to the riddle is that for any solution, for any problem that we face in life, and that is the message in this legend from the Sphinx, for any problem that we face in life, we will and we have to look inside us. We are the key to any problem in our life. It's somewhere inside us. That's one thing, and another thing that the mythology promises that this key can be found. There is always a solution to the problem. Why I say that? Because it's congruent with all the other things that come together in regard to the subject of coincidence. So, conclusion. Coincidence is part of life. It has been proven by scholars, has been proven by a lot of tests in laboratoria, and it has been proven in the real world that coincidence works, and that the Akashic records works, and that what you give to life, somebody else without unknowingly will always benefit from your actions in life. If we would be, and this is the double duty that we talk about for the last subject, if we would be totally congruent and harmonious with the big story of the universe, let's call it the big story of the universe, and we're a little bit separated from it, religious people would say we're out of paradise, you can say that. If we're out of that only coincidence happens only once a week or once a day. And once you are totally in alignment with the big story of the universe, then coincidence will be totally part of you. And then whatever you do, everybody else can participate from that. So the double duty that we have is, and I find that very exciting, I try that all the time, is to realize that this exists, that we can be in coincidence 24 hours a day, in line with the big story of the universe. That's one thing we can work on. And the second thing is, as we have lost this insight in it, we have lost this knowledge, this information, we need to refine how to do it. So one thing is awareness that it's there, and number 2 is that we have to refine it, how to do it. I love to find it. I love to work on this. It's for me very exciting. It gives content to my life. So we go to the conclusion. This is the conclusion about the topic of coincidence. I wish you a great New Year's Eve and an even better 2021. We all know what happened and happens in this year, what we love to improve, and let's go for that. I would say try to find the connection with your big story and be guaranteed assured that everything you do in your walk of life is important to all people, to everybody in humanity, in mankind, and to what is happening in the universe. The stars, 1,000 light years away, they will listen and hear what you contribute to your life. Thank you for watching, and I wish you a very, very good time next year. I'll be back, Hans the Storyteller, Nordsiek.